Bombshell Development. Donald Trump suddenly withdraws his peace plan for Ukraine and Russia reacts instantly. It's noteworthy that Trump, from the beginning of his election campaign, declared that he would end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours, suddenly stopped talking about this issue in June. The interview of the U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump with the owner of X, Elon Musk, was highly revealing about the Ukrainian issue. The Trump team called the interview historic, as about 1 billion people read news stories about the event, and according to Trump, U.S. President Joe Biden, with zero IQ, is responsible for starting the war in Ukraine, Trump said. Now, despite numerous warnings from Russia, Biden continued to insist on Ukraine joining NATO, Trump said, describing Russian President Vladimir Putin as a good negotiator. Putin loves his country and will defend it, Trump noted, while underlying that Ukraine is in a very bad situation with very few soldiers. The U.S. is in a difficult position in this conflict, although it could have been prevented. Trump has stopped talking about his peace plan, and it's noteworthy that Trump, who from the beginning of his election campaign declared that he would end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours, suddenly stopped talking about this in June. Now, more generally, and while in the past he was pushing for the complete stoppage of financial aid to Ukraine, he's now limiting to declaring that he will force the Europeans to pay more. And moreover, generally, and while in the past he was pushing for the complete stoppage of financial aid to Ukraine, he's now limited to declaring that he will force the Europeans to pay more. Now, unlike Trump's previous low-key statements, his interview with Musk was much more confrontational towards Russia. The evil dictators, he noted, if American president is the one that the evil dictators, meaning Russia, Iran, and North Korea, fear, that will make a huge difference in the security of the world, he said. It implies that issues of global interest will be resolved through pressure and intimidation and not through negotiations. It's imperative that he almost triumphed over the destruction of Nord Stream 2, even asking for a share in the success of the sabotage. The Republican candidate also made no mention at all of the Ukrainian terrorist attack in Kursk. The reaction of Russian officials to Trump's grandiose peace plans for Ukraine was initially more than restrained, and the latest statements of the U.S. presidential candidate justify their attitude. It's obvious that the U.S. itself, under any president, will continue the policy of provocations towards Russia, geopolitical analyst Kirill Strelnikov estimates. It's no coincidence that months ago Russian President Vladimir Putin had jokingly said that Biden would be preferable for Russia as a future president of the USA. At least we understand who we are dealing with and what to expect, but we will work with whichever president is elected, he had said, justifying his preference. In the case of Kamala Harris, if she's elected the next president of the United States, it will change absolutely nothing for Russia. Harris, who is essentially the mouthpiece of the Russophobic faction of the Democratic Party and the deep state, is assumed to continue the Biden project, that is, the stubborn aid to Ukraine and the military reinforcement of NATO. Hard hawk Kamala Harris, how American presidents are blackmailed. Harris does not represent the American people. She's on the side of the U.S. military-industrial complex, whose main actors are lavishly empowering Democrats and Republicans in order to force the next U.S. president to continue the war. And according to the Spade Defense Index, shares of the largest U.S. defense companies have risen almost 50% since the start of the military operation in Ukraine. For example, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin reported earnings for the first quarter of 2024 alone of $202 billion and $159 billion, respectively. This means that even if the presidential candidate has a burning desire for peace, he will be made an offer he cannot refuse, and the nice words about peace will be immediately forgotten and military action will be used instead. At an informal meeting of the UN Security Council, Russia's deputy permanent representative to the UN, Dmitry Polyansky, recalled that in June, Russia, represented by Vladimir Putin, made a very generous offer for negotiations. He said, "We received a response to our offer since a week, rather than Zelensky chose escalating the war by invading a peaceful region of Russia. This is a fatal mistake which Ukraine will regret later." And a few days ago, in an operational meeting on the situation in the Kursk region, Vladimir Putin clearly said that there can be no talk of negotiations with such people. The enemy will receive a convincing answer, and all goals set to Russia will be achieved, he said. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. This is from Banking News Daily. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.